So I've got a bit of an interesting story I want to share with you. So it started 7 years ago. 7 years ago I came out of an 11-year relationship. So at that time, my first purchase outside of that relationship, I bought a big house. House was sort of semi-set in the bush, big 2-story house, nice house. Me and my friend, which is now my partner, we moved into that house. She worked for me at the time. Anyway, that year we had a lot of rain. When winter came around, we had tons of rain. I'm a builder by trade, so things don't really bother me about a house. There's a few issues, but I just fix them up, right? So that particular winter, it rained so much that water came in every crevice. It was crazy. Anyway, long story short is, within 3 weeks, the house grew 3 types of black mould, and the house was deemed unlivable by a couple of different scientists, mould lab technicians that came around to check it out. The reason why they come to check it out is because we're actually getting sick from the house. I didn't really know much about black mould at the time. Obviously, being a builder, we used to fix a lot of it, but we never really had the experience of being sick from it. And if you know anything about black mould, it's not good. So anyway, we were a bit sick at the time, but this experience that I went through while I was at the house, for a week leading up to the actual event, my partner, I started seeing, well, this is crazy, right? I'm not a religious, not a spiritual person at that time, but I started seeing like a third eye on my partner, and then almost in a pyramid, like right between our eyes. At that time, looking back on it, I think, shit, what did I think about that? But at the time, obviously, with the mould and being a bit sick, it was somewhat normal. It just feels like it was normal back then. And, I guess that went on for about a week leading up to the event. Now, the house was deemed unlivable. We'd moved out to the tennis court in a tent. But there was an upstairs room that had an outside deck, and it had a bathroom in it that wasn't mouldy at all. So what we did, we sealed it off, taped up underneath the doors, and we had a ladder set up onto the balcony so we could access it from the outside. And we still had a room that we turned into an office, had a bathroom, a little bit of a normalness, so that it wasn't all about the tent and the tennis court. Anyway, this one particular night, a week after seeing all that stuff, we were both upstairs on the computers. I felt like I was feeling pretty normal, right? I didn't really feel like it was anything that was crazy with mould or sickness or anything like that. But anyway, I was focusing on some text, reading something on the net, and I was looking into that text, and it was almost like out of nowhere I hypnotised myself. And in that moment that happened, I had this tunnel vision of sort of how the world works. I was like sort of racing around, seeing how everything works, sort of this whole humanity thing. I've been doing this a bunch of times, trying to get things right. Also seeing sort of different levels, how reality was, seeing the level that I was trying to get to or trying to get back to, which was, the way I seen it was like a door opening, and behind that door was 2 big light beings, like almost like the Michelin tire guy, like 2 of them but light and almost slightly see-through, really blobby-like. At that time I didn't know what they were, obviously. Now I've learned a lot more about the spiritual side, I can understand them. But anyway, that was like another level that I was trying to get back to. But meanwhile, once that flashback happened, I started feeling like my face was growing, my head was growing, my body was growing. I was essentially feeling and becoming this creature, and it wasn't human, it was big, it was strong. It was like the ecstasy I was feeling was like out of this world. Like it was like, I don't know, like just the craziest drug that you could ever imagine times 1,000. Like just feeling amazing, strong, felt like I had telepathy, I felt like I could move things, I just felt really strong. Anyway, my partner was across the room, and she looked at me, and she was really into Dolores Cannon. And if you don't know who Dolores Cannon was, she was a regressionist that does hypnotherapy and basically explores people's past lives. Anyway, in that she asked a lot of questions. So obviously, partner being into that, she sort of, whether she knew consciously or not, she started asking me questions. She obviously seen stuff, said that I was sort of looking like I was changing. And she was like, who are you? And then I had to think about it for a second. I was like, I'm Cyrus. And she was like, where are you from? And I pointed up at the sky and in my head from the stars. And she was like, where have you been this time? And I was like, up in the stars. Anyway, and then she sort of asked a few other relevant questions that we're not going to talk about here, and then she got a bit personal about some stuff, and that kind of things fluttered around. During all that, I also knew what my purpose was here on Earth back then. I had a lot to do with the early development of man, as well as fast forward from that, I took powers off man when they were misbehaving and things went pear-shaped in the world, and I took their powers off them. I can't really go much more into it than that, but that's in a nutshell. And then obviously she asked a few fluttering questions, and she went off topic a bit, and obviously being her and not an actual therapist, I also had, at that time, I had this overwhelming feeling that someone was watching me. So though Cyrus that came through, I felt like it was almost like I was being possessed, right? I was in the back seat, he was in the front seat, but it wasn't a bad position. I was like, shit, I love this. I'm in the back, and he was in the front, and it felt so good, and I was like, it was awesome. But anyway, after having this feeling that someone was watching me, it kind of started to die off, and over the next few hours, as quick as it came, it left. Obviously, since then, I've learned a lot more about it. Obviously, I've got into Dolores Cannon, and I've listened to all the ebooks, and what I've realised is that was a past life coming through. So it wasn't like I was being possessed. I wasn't religious, I wasn't spiritual, I knew nothing about anything. I didn't believe in ghosts, anything. I was just a hard-working guy that was in a very bad situation at the time in terms of this house and this breakup and blah, blah, blah. And anyway, so what I've learned about it now was it was a past life that I was seeing. And then obviously, as quick as it came, it left, and then I was chasing that feeling, right? So obviously that the house that we're in fell over. Before the house fell over, obviously my business fell over, it was leaky, everything kind of went pear-shaped on us. Before that happened, I was able to develop a product. I developed it in the driveway. That product, we're able to get an investor. We're able to then say goodbye to that house and that part of life, and we're able to move into a workshop and start developing and selling this new product. Obviously, me and my partner moved above the workshop. And then that was the start of us sort of rebuilding our lives from having lost everything. Obviously, COVID happened. COVID was a really bad time for us. Obviously, new product, new business, couldn't travel anywhere, not good. We're able to survive and get through that. And then after COVID, we weren't able to benefit from the rush and everyone wanting to do business because our product was so new that we didn't have that customer base. So we also struggled after COVID. Anyway, during this process, me, obviously everything's struggling, financially struggling, knowing this thing that happened to me, I just wanted to get this thing to happen to me again because I felt so good when it happened. It was like I was trying to get back to that point. I wanted Cyrus to come back and save me and me live an amazing life. That's what it felt like. Obviously, money was tight, everything was tight, it was a real struggle. So we moved out of the workshop into an ex-B&B, and then obviously my partner was into meditation, so I started getting into meditations, something I'll talk about in later videos. I started getting into Joe Dispenza meditations. At first I was like, she was like, do meditations. I was like, I can't sit still, I have to itch, I have to do this, I have to do that. I basically can't meditate, right? But through the process of just sitting down, closing my eyes, listening to this guided meditation, look at this, look at that, look at your foot, look at your nose, in your head, I eventually learned how to meditate, and it's actually easier than it sounds. It wasn't cross-legged, it wasn't kind of crazy like whatever, it was just close your eyes and visualize different things. And what it did for me is I'm quite an ADD type person. I'm very, as you'll notice from this video, very high energy. I was able to calm my mind down. I was able to calm my body down. I didn't move my body as much. It just became an awesome tool for me, right? So obviously then we moved out of that house and we moved into another house, which was an awesome house, nice setting, beautiful house. Still kind of struggling for money, to be honest. Like we were able to afford the house, but everything was tight, the business was tight. Obviously we had staff at that time, so really the staff took priority, so we were always putting money into them. Anyway, so at that time, still kind of in the back of my mind, wanting to get back to that Cyrus thing, I was like, shit, if he ever comes back, I need to have a strong body. Now, I'd been to the gym a lot when I was younger, but I probably for 10 years I hadn't. So one thing I focused on was I had the meditation thing sus, but I started going to the gym every day, 5 days a week, every morning before work. I started getting up really early, 3:30, 4 a.m. kind of thing, meditating, making coffee and breakfast for partner, and then heading to the gym every day before work. And it was one thing I was able to do without any money, right? So $12 a week for the gym or whatever it is, I was able to rebuild my body and my mind without any money. So that was the one thing I could control. So I did that one thing, right? In the back of my mind, doing it in case Cyrus ever came back, he'd be happy, nice strong body, and you know, so I was always driving that high, that experience that I had. Anyway, fast forward a few more years, and thinking that this thing was never going to come back, I had some for about a week leading up to the second event. I started feeling like this thing was coming back. Few experiences happening, nothing as crazy as the first time, but just this feeling like it was going to come back. Then one night during summer, I was outside on a beanbag, just by myself, had a fire cranking. Sun was coming down, sun was cutting through a window of our property, and it was just kind of like perfect, like right into my eyes. And I just went bang, and I just, crazy third eye, just like, you know, eyes went closed, started seeing like everything, craziness. Can't explain it here, but basically a lot of who I've worked out that I am now. Someone I believe is a lot more special than obviously the first life that came through. Someone that's pretty important to this world. Someone I don't want to talk about here, but someone I will talk about in the future. I guess the purpose of me doing these videos is the journey that I've gone on, right? So from this first time that the stuff happened, and then the 7 years to now, I'm a completely different person. And the purpose of these videos is not to focus on who I am behind the scenes. It's to focus on, I believe that I can get you guys to do what I did in 7 years in a year. I can take you on a journey and get you guys to wake up and work out who you may be behind the scenes. Whether you like it or not, we've had previous lives, right? It just is what it is. Some people won't like that, but it is what it is. We're multi-dimensional, multi-lives lived beings. We all come from source. It's it's a bit of a trip. Like I said, I'm not religious by any stretch of the imagination, but there is definitely source energy out there. There's definitely some special stuff out there. A lot of stuff going on right now. But I believe I can fast track you into those 7 years down to 1 year. Also, I want to take you on a bit of a journey of the rest of our. My partner hasn't properly woken up yet. She's still early in the journey. We're going to document that, and we want sort of her to wake up on camera, and we want to also go through the whole manifesting thing, which still kind of a little bit struggling with cash, you know, but I feel like I'm on the verge of manifesting things, and I'm kind of sick of listening to, even no offense to these people that are doing the videos, but when you listen to self-help videos and they're like, they've all made it, they've got heaps of money, and they're like, it's real easy, do this, do that, you know, and it's like, mate, you've already made it, you're in too good a mood, you know, like, where I'm in that verge of haven't made it yet, the business has still been struggling, we've been in a recession, business is good, but it's just definitely a struggle. But I feel like I'm on the verge of this manifesting thing. I've got my vibe right, I've got my energy right, and I want to take you guys on this journey. So this manifesting thing starts kicking off. You can see this happening and that happening, which is going to in turn add to this overall experience that I'm trying to teach. So keep an eye out for the next videos. I've never told the story before. It was a shortened version of it, but you will work out more. We will share more as these videos go on.